Aloha, this is Samuel Guy in Hawaii with an improved test spreadsheet for the next Borderlands hunt. The hunt is a Borderlands tradition, a community-run scavenger hunt wherein players try to obtain a copy of as many legendary, unique items as possible in a set amount of time. It is also, more importantly, a charity event to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Now, I've been making custom hunt spreadsheets for tracking jobs and planning out hunt strategies more easily since 2021. For the last two hunts, Borderlands 3 in September of 2024 and Borderlands 2 just this last February, the hunt organizers were gracious enough to link my spreadsheet as a downloadable tracking aid on the official website, and I've gotten really good feedback on those. Thank you all for that. I, however, cannot leave well enough alone, and after the most recent hunt, I set out to make future spreadsheets even better. I didn't think it would matter that much in the short run since Borderlands 4 is launching soon. That is until the hunt organizers announced that the next hunt, Borderlands 3, is scheduled for the 15th through the 24th of August, about a month before the launch of BL4. So I got to work, and here we are. Now, August 15th is almost 3 months away. Why am I posting this now? Well, as it says in the title, this is a test spreadsheet. I want to put this improved spreadsheet out to the community at large to kick the tires, as it were. Okay, I want to see what works or maybe what doesn't, note any errors, make changes before the actual hunt, because there are several changes to past spreadsheets I need to explain, changes that will hopefully make it more useful and more accessible for more players. So, the biggest change right off the bat is that this spreadsheet is currently formulated as a Google Sheets document. Okay, previous spreadsheets were saved as Microsoft Excel files. In order to use those, you either had to download a copy and open it up in Microsoft Excel, meaning you had to have Microsoft Excel, or make a copy and open it up in Google Sheets. Now, anyone can have a Google account and access to Google Sheets and Google Drive space to keep those files. What I could not guarantee, however, was that opening the Excel spreadsheet in Google Sheets would provide the full functionality of the Excel original. Okay, by functionality, I mean mainly three things. One, being able to check off or X off a collected item here and have these three cells turn green to show at a glance what we've already collected, while also automatically adjusting our score and item total up here. Okay, the Google spreadsheet could do some of that, but not necessarily all of it. Two, being able to sort on any of these columns. Now, I knew Google Sheets could do that, but I was not experienced enough to know what I or any of you might need to do in order to make that happen. Okay. Three, protection. I set up the Excel spreadsheet to limit the ability of myself or anyone else to accidentally overwrite information by limiting our ability to make any changes in any cells except this column where we claim items and this row across here where we sort on columns. Okay. I did not know how that worked in Google Sheets or what might be required to make that happen. Now, having educated myself and tested things out over the last month or so, it turns out that all three of these things are fairly easy to do in Google Sheets. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you are an Excel user, you can download a copy of this current test spreadsheet as an Excel file and open it up in Excel, and it will be fully functional. You may have to do your own cell locking and sheet protection, but claiming items and sorting on columns should work just fine. Now, this is currently my master file. I will probably post a separate Excel spreadsheet version prior to the start of the hunt because there are some minor but annoying issues with the way Google Sheets does a few things versus Excel, which I will discuss in a bit. But I'll be making that Excel file by downloading an Excel copy of this Google Sheets document and then making changes to it. So let's talk about what's the same and what's new and improved and different. The basic layout and color scheme are the same. These three columns are color-coded according to item rarity and mayhem requirement. White, blue, purple, and orange for common through legendary. There are no uncommon green items. Any item that is mayhem locked, that can only be farmed if in mayhem mode and sometimes at or above a specific mayhem level, is red. There are also now these four items with this fuchsia color. Okay. These are mayhem locked, but may also be farmed in normal mode under special conditions. In the case of three of them, namely from a Proving Grounds boss in True Trial mode. The only difference between a normal and True Trial Proving Grounds run at any mayhem level or no mayhem at all is the final boss, and a True Trial final boss has the same raid boss level hit points at M0 and M11. So if you don't need an M10 version of the drop for your build, you can breeze through the first three True Trial maps in normal mode, and then you just need to defeat the final raid level boss for a 50-50 chance at the drop. Now, whether that's faster than farming a different source in mayhem mode is up to you to decide. Now, the fourth item, the Hellfire, drops from Jabbermogwai, but at a reduced chance in normal mode. I've also just shown one of the big additions to the spreadsheet, these notes. As long as we have the Google Sheets tab selected or the Excel spreadsheet window selected, when we hover over the name of any item, we get a little pop-up window. Okay, most of the window info is redundant and that is available in columns to the left. However, having it all right here in one spot without the need to scroll over, and especially when there's more than one source, is much more convenient this way. Plus, this also includes drop rates. Now, the format should be consistent. First comes the content. Base is base game and includes Proving Grounds, Takedowns, Raid Boss, and events. DLC content is listed as Moxie for the Handsome Jackpot, GL&T for Guns, Love, and Tentacles, BOB for Bound of Blood, Psycho for Psycho Creed, Arms Race for Arms Race, and Director's Cut for Ava's Mysteries. Next is the name of the farmable source in all caps. Now, sometimes this includes additional info like unique or named enemy, but none of that really matters. Hammerlock's legendary hunt items are noted, but those only get us to Becca, which is not a hunt item. Collecting all Claptrap parts gets us a Baby Maker, but that can also be farmed from two other sources. And while completing Zero's Target of Opportunity gets us to Lyuda, that can also be farmed from Tremendous Rex in Cistern of Slaughter. Now, I avoid Circles of Slaughter when at all possible, so I'll take the freebie, but how you do it is up to you. Okay. Next is the map location of that source. Then comes the listed drop rate or rates for that item from that source. Now, some have multiple rates depending on mayhem level and sometimes a specific Vault Hunter. At the very end will be any mission or content that must be completed before that source can be farmed. If the mission name is in all caps, it's a main story mission to include DLC main stories. If upper and lowercase, it's a side quest. Now, sometimes it will clue you in on when there are multiple requirements or unusual requirements for unlocking farming. For instance, the Bearcat here lists both Skag Dog Days and Divine Retribution as mission requirements. Truffle Munch, who drops the Bearcat, unlocks for farming after completing the Skag Dog Days side quest. However, he does not drop the Bearcat except in my extensive experience in Mayhem mode, and we don't unlock Mayhem mode until we kill Tyrene and complete the last main story mission, Divine Retribution. Okay. Now, as with the previous BL3 spreadsheet, any item with multiple legitimate sources has two or more of these caret symbols after the name. Okay. These notes duplicate that feature with more info. Every source has a separate line, allowing you, the player, to decide at a glance how you want to go about farming that item. For example, the Baby Maker can be farmed from Alacrita's Vanda in the Cistern of Slaughter, Broodmother in the Pyre of Stars, or received as a reward for collecting all the Claptrap parts. Now, I've already proclaimed my distaste for Circles of Slaughter. Broodmother, however, is a true rare spawn with only a 1 in 4 spawn chance and then a 10% chance to drop the Baby Maker. Because of this, many prefer the Cistern farm, even though Broodmother, despite rarity, is a very fast farm. But again, it's up to you. This also, however, illustrates one drawback to Google Sheets over Excel. You have noticed that when I first hover over an item, the note box is this almost squared rectangle that doesn't conform automatically to the layout of the contents, especially when there are multiple entries, multiple lines. Now, we can quite easily grab this corner and stretch the box to better fit and display the separate lines. However, this formatting usually does not last when moving to another cell or even moving away and then back, which is exasperating. I mean, what is the point in Google? In any case, in Excel, I can stretch the box and it will maintain its shape, and each and every note box can be different, and that will stay that way after saving or copying a file. Also in Excel, there's a line between the applicable cell and the left edge of the pop-up, and I can actually move the pop-up up and down so it's more aligned with the cell. With Google Sheets, you need to be a little bit careful hovering over the cell and then adjusting the pop-up to remember what cell or item the note actually applies to. Hint, the top edges match up. Okay. This is why I would probably download a copy in Excel, stretch them all out, and then post that as a separate file. Now, if you don't have Excel, though, you are stuck with this little annoying feature. Okay. Now, is this annoying thing better than no pop-up notes at all? Yes, but just so you know. Okay. This rarity column I'll probably hide. Maybe this mayhem column too. This official column here sorts everything in the order it appeared on the main web page where we claimed our item drops during the last BL3 Hunt. Vanilla Uniques, then Vanilla Legendaries, and DLCs, then Mayhem Locked items alphabetically within each group. But I do not know if this order will hold, or if that's how the official claim page will work, or if not, if I will have to have time to make changes before the hunt. Just so you know, OFC list group does the same thing. Okay. So the next big three are the important ones. Column number 1 is the primary sort from previous lists, which, as it says, puts items in order according to when the map containing the item's first farmable source is unlocked. Okay, the map and usually the source, not necessarily the item itself. In other words, right off the bat, Shiv and his drops are listed, but he doesn't actually drop them in normal mode. Same for Truffle Munch, Mincemeat, and one of the 2 Undertaker drops. Additionally, all DLC exclusive drops come after all the base game items and all the event drops. Those are all at the very end. Okay. Column number 2 sorts by when an item first becomes farmable while playing through the game and story. This is why all those Shiv, Mincemeat, Truffle Munch, and Undertaker drops I just mentioned are moved all the way down here with all the Mayhem Lock stuff. Okay, it's also why the Rhina, a loot enemy drop, of which Amber Lamps is only one example, is the first listed item, followed by the 2 Broken Hearts event drops. We can turn on the Broken Hearts event at game start, and hearts will start appearing on the Droughts map. Okay, this sort, however, still places all DLC material at the bottom after all the base game stuff. Okay, column number 3 duplicates number 2, but goes one step further and moves all DLC items except the Every Mystery ones up here to right after we reach Sanctuary, because all DLC material except Ava's Mysteries can be accessed as soon as we get to Sanctuary. Now I suspect most people will stick with the original column number 1 sorting, but you have choices. Okay. Now note about the information. Most of this info, 90 to 95, 97%, is pulled from Loot Lemon and the Borderlands Wiki websites. Outstanding resources you should all have bookmarked if you are uncomfortably serious about Borderlands. Okay. There are instances, however, where my experience and understanding differ from that of those sources, and I diverge from their info as I deem necessary. Okay, the early Mayhem locked items I've already mentioned are a good example. Loot Lemon does specify that Shiv only drops common shotguns and can't drop world drop legendaries, but doesn't mention specifically that the Ripper and Bouncing Pear can drop only in Mayhem. It also does not mention the same issue for Truffle Munch and Mincemeat. Okay. An even better example, however, is Azalea, the Witch's Brew side quest boss who drops the Rack Commander class mod and Victory Rush artifact. Okay. Per Loot Lemon, both have a 50% drop chance, plus the Victory Rush also will only drop at level 27 and above. Now, in my experience, Azalea never ever drops the artifact in normal mode, regardless of level. Once I turn on Mayhem, over the longest I've gone before it drops is maybe 20 runs, and usually drops much sooner. By contrast, in normal mode, the Rack Commander drop rate appears more likely to be between 30 and 50% or higher. She drops that class mod like candy in normal. Okay. Once in Mayhem, though, it then feels more like the listed 15%. Okay. One other thing alluded to earlier, protection. If we download and save this as an Excel file, we can protect or lock various cells to prevent accidental overwriting. We can do this to prevent both others from changing a shared file and to prevent our own accidental changes, which, since we'll be working with our own individual copies, is what's really important. With Google Sheets, however, it's a bit more complicated. We can protect the sheet from changes made by others, but not by ourselves, at least not easily. Basically, the way Google Sheets protects us from our own mistakes is by giving us the option to warn us when we try to change anything in a protected cell. Okay. Now, I have set this spreadsheet up to do just that, and as it turns out, those protections remain in place even if you make a copy. Okay. The way this works is if we deliberately or accidentally attempt to change anything in a cell, except those over here on the far left, the cells where we check mark when we get an item, we get this little pop-up warning which says, hey, protected cell, you sure want to do that. Okay. Now, if the answer is no, if we made a mistake, just click cancel, and any unwanted changes will be undone. Now, the only exception to this procedure is this row of cells up here, the ones on which we can sort things differently. They are protected, so we don't change the text, the column header labels within those cells. However, if we attempt to sort on one of these, we will also get the warning. Now, in that case, if sorting is in fact what we intend to do, then go ahead and click OK. Now, as I said, these protections hold even if you make your own copy. That is not true if you download it as an Excel file. Okay, if you're an Excel user and prefer working with an Excel version, you will first have to click up here to allow editing, and then you will have to apply your own protections. Now, if you don't know how to do that and don't want to figure it out, you'll have to take your chances. But again, it's only a test sheet, and if and when I post a finalized Excel version closer to the actual hunt, that copy will be fully protected. You can turn them on and off. So that's a lot to take in and a lot to remember, but again, this is just a test spreadsheet. The real hunt is months away, and the hunt organizers may change things between now and then, at which point I may need to adjust the spreadsheet. The point here, though, is to try and break things and find fixes before then. Okay. Thanks for your time. Leave me any questions or finding in the comments. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.